What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. We usually have like a 5-person show going on for Sunday night, and feels a little bit like a Ferris Bueller situation where we're absent
Exactly.
9 times. Yeah, I started on a Ferris Bueller joke. Will Brinson here, by the way, Ken's Brooks. I started on that, was like, oh my God, if Ken's doesn't get a Ferris Bueller reference, I'm probably just gonna hang up and leave. You know,
Definitely
that's
is
like,
considered a throwback movie for me, but yes, I am familiar
yeah. I
with
mean,
it.
it came out before I was born, so like it's old, but it was like a movie of my childhood. Uh, anyway, interesting. Bob T in the chat notes big storm brewing in Pittsburgh tonight, right around kickoff. That
Oh,
matters
that does
potentially,
matter.
especially in a game where not a huge total. We do have Cowboys at Steelers. I mean, you tell your grandfather this game's on, and he says it's 2 best teams in football right here. The Steelers -2.5, a surprising start to the season here for Pittsburgh with Justin Fields under center. Pumped to see him in prime time. Of course, the Cowboys, need to continue righting the ship. Total of 43.5. What do you think about the spread, Kens?
Well, I mean, it's amazing how much these injuries really did impact the spread. We have two of the best defenders out for Dallas, and that really
Yeah.
took us from Dallas -1 to being pretty in line with odds makers, actually having some pretty solid value there. We could just go ahead and throw up the model graphic here. We could take a look at our projected score. Definitely have some value on Pittsburgh to cover. Again, Parsons being out, Lawrence being out, those are massive, massive things for a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields, who can be mobile if he wants to be. So if I were to lean aside here, I would go Pittsburgh, but these primetime games, Vegas is all over them. Typically hard for a model to find that much value, but the props, the anytime touchdowns we've been killing, and the props from last week. So we'll definitely get into more after that.
Any concerns with the weather? I don't know the extent of it, honestly. Like I haven't looked at it. We've still got games going on as we. Oh, actually, I think we're all done now. The Rams just lost to the Packers, unfortunately. Boo.
I was blessed
But
to have an Eagles bye week to not emotionally destroy my Sunday, and then the Phillies come out and Castellanos brings it home, bottom of the ninth for the boys.
oh
Let's go.
wow, did he really? Who died? Did somebody something weird happen today? Somebody die? Like that's usually like Nick Castellanos
Yeah,
only hits homers on
an emotional experience.
yeah. By the way, I don't know if you're watching like the Boston College game, but Tom Brenneman, whatever his name is, the guy who did the Castellanos thing when he was apologizing, like the whole Castellanos meme. He's like, "And Castellanos goes deep to right field." He was calling the Boston College game last week, and he was like, "And there's a touchdown for Castellanos," and he said it like completely unironically. It was
Oh my god.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't watch that game.
I don't
But
blame you.
huge college football Saturday, I will say. I know we're here for the NFL, but I mean we gotta give a nod to yesterday because that was just out of control.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I sort of checked out a little bit after NC State gagged a 10-point fourth quarter lead to Wake Forest at home. But nevertheless, anywho, I'm on the Cowboys, and I mean, like I got them +2.5. I don't feel great about it. I think Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence being out, that's a big blow. Are they going to be able to, like, I mean, the Steelers should be able to run the ball fairly effectively. I think depending on the weather, the over could be a decent look too. Like we could get more points than expected. I think if Justin Fields is able to run, if Najee Harris can actually get going, and then depending on what the Steelers do on defense against this Cowboys offense, they really need a second weapon to step up, whether it's Jake Ferguson or Jalen Tolbert, because quite frankly, just having CeeDee Lamb isn't enough. The inactives, I think Harry may have a little, very nice, Harry. Michael Parsons, as we mentioned, is out for this game. DeMarcus Lawrence on IR. Trey Lance, emergency third quarterback. He's inactive. Deuce Vaughn inactive as well. So everything going with Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle. And then Russell Wilson, Mr. Limited, is inactive as well, but can be the emergency third quarterback. Roman Wilson out. Jalen Warren out. Alex Highsmith out. Cordarrelle Patterson out as well. So some bigger names on the offensive side of the ball there for Pittsburgh. Max Sharping too, along with Alex Highsmith, who matters for this game. Props, excuse me. I have, with the Steelers defense, I have a juicy-ish prop but I think I
Okay.
like it. A Dak Prescott interception. Anytime Dak Prescott interception, minus 140. Just think if the Steelers are able to slow down the run game and Dallas's defense can't slow down the Steelers, we're going to see a lot of dropbacks for Dak against an opportunistic Steelers defense, whether it's a tip ball, forcing it late. I think we can get it kind of early. I like the Dak Prescott interception. And then I've also got George Pickens over longest reception, 21.5 yards. You know, Pickens is a deep, explosive threat. He can get the ball in short yardage and take off. They like to throw the ball down the field to him. I don't think we'll get a ton of looks. I don't think we'll get a ton of catches, but I do think we could see one long shot to Pickens. Any thoughts on those? And what does the model have?
Yeah, just to touch on Pickens, we like him as well, but we went actually over 56.5 rushing and receiving yards just because of those injuries we're dealing with at running back. I would not be surprised if we saw a jet sweep or two to get the ball to Pickens. So just want to add in, I mean, I think it's really like a 3-yard difference between the receiving and receiving plus rushing, but you might as well get it if you can. And his receiving yards overall are just trending up every single week, 29 in week 2. 29 in week 1, then we get to 57, then we get to 113 versus Indiana. So certainly getting comfortable there with Fields as well. And I like adding our little potential of some rushing yards. Then we go to Dak to go over his rushing yards. This is actually down to 7.5 in some places, but nonetheless, like the 8.5, this is a pass rush that is terrifying and will make you scramble. And on top of that, we have a declining offensive line for Mr. Dak here, who just is going to need to protect himself. So overall, like through the stretch through last year, I mean, this is a 60% to the over, 23-13 since 2022. So, down the stretch last year when they were in that gotta win mode heading into the playoffs, you saw him rip this over 10 of his last 11 games. So I think we could see him in a good primetime spot to try to get out of the pocket. And then we're also going to get mobile for Justin Fields as well. Again, he basically quote unquote becomes the third running back or third down back here with Warren out, with Patterson out. So I think he'll be comfortable putting himself in that spot. I think this line's based off his average of 2023, but I think this is a situation where you're going to run more than you typically do. And it's at plus money. So we always love to see that. And even if it's a Cowboys blowout potentially, and he has to pass, I still think he'll try to scramble for first downs when necessary. So I think it's a good buy low spot on Fields, a good low number for him and Prescott as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Fields thing makes total sense. You could get the field stuff with designed runs. The only real concern you would have with that, I think, with is if the rush attempts is if it's a Steelers blowout. But if it's a Steelers blowout, there's a pretty decent chance that Fields is running the ball plenty too. So I think that's fine. And then with Dak, yeah, I mean, you talk about since 2022. Well, you talk about his injury. Right. He got injured running the ball and sort of backed off the rushing stuff and has since been a little more active. And again, I actually think it's kind of correlated in a little thin way, but Dak interception and Dak rushing yards, because if the Cowboys are losing, he's throwing a bunch, maybe trying to take off, pick up key third downs, and you could get both of those. Looking very quickly at Harry's got a quick trigger finger on banning from the chat. You love to see it. Just seeing, trying to see if there's not a ton of chat questions about specific props.
I see some kicker action. I got a kicker in one of my parlays here, but I think, I'll just give the reasoning now. I just think overall, you're looking at primetime unders typically. You're looking at kickers. You're looking at Dallas, who struggles to score early against a solid defense. Just could be a good spot. Over 1.5 field goals there, but
yeah,
I like.
No, I'm with you. All right, let's look at anytime touchdowns. We got a speedy show. There's only 2 of us. We can only go around the horn so many times. It's not a high total game. So it is what it is. What is the model like for anytime touchdowns?
All right. I think last week we went 2-1 on anytime touchdown props. We went 3-0 on player props. So hoping to give some of that again here. We're going to start with Turpin here. Look, we would set this around plus 200. Odds makers have it at plus 450. So massive value here. And you only see significant snaps when there are injuries, and there is to Brandon Cooks. So I think you'll certainly get some targets here. You look at his receiving touchdown percentage, it's triple what his receiving percentage is. So clearly they like to get him the ball to get a chunk play here, potentially in the red zone. I think this is a good defense potentially for him to go against. He's a dynamic return man too, so you can always, count on that being part of it as well. But I just think at plus 450 for a receiver that should see some significant increase in looks with Brandon Cooks out, it's definitely worth a sprinkle there. Rico Dowdle, I talk about all the time, running backs who are a threat, reception-wise, rushing-wise. We basically have him nearly projected the same chance of getting a receiving touchdown or a rushing touchdown. And another guy where you just see his receptions increase when it comes down to getting close to the end zone. So again, we saw other injuries. It's really just going to be him and Zeke out there tonight. So I think we're getting solid value at +1 or plus 200. And then Fields, I talked about it earlier. He is going to be essentially a third running back on this team, I think. You get comfortable without Parsons and Lawrence. I think he'll get comfortable, have more time in the pocket, but also maybe find some open lanes as well to get in the end zone. So plus 140 when we would set that at minus 105 is also pretty solid.
Yeah, I dig this. I mean, Turpin is explosive, man. They've got to figure out something like a secondary weapon, like I mentioned, whether it's Ferguson could be key. Pretty good linebackers for the Steelers, so that may be a little bit tougher. Turpin makes sense. Jalen Tolbert makes sense. And then, if you look at the over-unders for Zeke rushing yards, like Dowdle's the guy. It's just becoming a Rico Dowdle backfield. So, I mean, why not? And my best ball bags are packed and like sitting down at the hotel lobby, desperately needing a Rico Dowdle touchdown. So I am absolutely on board for that. Because we love the chat and we love the people. We are people of the people. We have multiple parlays to give out. You've got a 6-1 4-legger, right?
I do have a 6-1 4-legger. I was looking for some model value just to go off what we were talking about before. Turpin just talked about it. I mean, I think we could get this in 1 or 2 receptions. I think this will be a solid chunk yard type of play here. I talked about Aubrey, talked about just overall primetime kickers getting a ton of action here. I think Aubrey will be in a prime spot to get over 1.5 field goals. And then we're going to go Dowdle back to our guy. Over 13.5 receiving yards has become the dual threat here. We'll get a ton of time on the field in general. We have him projected for 18 yards. So you're looking at some solid, comfortable value there. And we also just buying him down to 25 plus rushing yards. Obviously we have him, projected for a little bit more, but that got us from plus 450 to plus 600. So might as well add that fourth leg while you can to get to 6-1.
I dig it. And I put together a parlay. I was like surprised. I was like adding stuff that was like heavily minused on BetMGM and was surprised to see that it's actually ended up being about, I think, 615 to 14 plus 1450. So 14.5 to 1. Yeah. Justin Fields, anytime touchdown score. They're going to use him down by the goal line. If they need, like, he's not afraid to run the football down by the goal line. He can obviously take off and rip off a big run. And we just don't have, a very good defense on the field for Dallas in the first place, much less with all the injuries that they're dealing with. Also bumped down George Pickens to 50 plus receiving yards. I know, that's a little thin in the sense that he, could, we might not see the Steelers throw a bunch, but we're just asking for 50. And then CD Lamb down to 75 plus receiving yards. And like CD Lamb is CD Lamb. If he doesn't get 75, the Cowboys either rolling because of the running game or getting absolutely blasted. I also cranked up the Cowboys to +9 in this game and cranked up the under to 50. A little worried with that defense, but I think we're going to see. I just don't think we're going to see like a runaway shootout in this game between the Cowboys and the Steelers. That would really surprise me. And I do think Dallas keeps it close enough to stay well within that touchdown number. So I don't know. I felt like that was like 5 reasonable legs. Fields gets in the end zone. I think we're cooking with gas at 15, almost 15 to 1.
I'll tell you, I like CD a lot, and I like buying him down in a parlay because you are right. Like, the Cowboys are either leading because CD Lamb is playing well and CD Lamb has a ton of yards, or CeeDee Lamb will end up with a ton of yards because they're playing from behind in the second half and have to throw the ball through the air. So I find a hard version of either story. Now, sometimes I think the line is a little obnoxiously inflated. However, we do have him projected for 92 yards tonight. So I do like him in this game script specifically. I see people talking about Mr. Pat Fryermuth in the chat. We have him projected for 4.6 receptions, which I believe is line's 3.5. So that's pretty solid value. 50 yards on said 4.6 receptions. So pretty big fan of that. You know me, I like that position. I'm always looking at those guys. So underrated players there.
Noted tight end savant, Mackenzie Brooks. And I think, I look with CD2, it's one of those things. Sia, our pal, is not in here, and I've seen him in the chat, but I don't know. CeeDee Lamb's a decent ladder option if you want to ladder receptions, particularly where Cowboys can't really run the ball effectively. They're forced to throw. CD is going to be a target hog, or Cowboys are trailing and they're just feeding CD. And so I think, by the way, CeeDee Lamb, my favorite, maybe one of my top 5 all-time favorite college players. Runs like a Cadillac. And anyway, I'm not gonna belabor the point by telling a dumb story. Instead, I will tell you a great deal that BetMGM is running. We've all had our first TD bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance. With BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance, place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pre-game straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager as normal. If your player scores the second touchdown of the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. All right. We have our first touchdown scorer bet. Do you find yourself losing track of what day it is? And I mean, obviously it's Sunday, but I mean, I'm like when we do these shows, sometimes I'm like, wait, did we win one last? I can't remember. Yeah. I can remember what the Thursday. Yeah, Thursday was a fun game.
Well, I can't even think.
Falcons and Bucks. It feels like 40 years ago, but yeah, it was a wild game.
And I think Drake, you know who it was? Drake London was the first touchdown. And my roommate, who tends to just hit these random bets,
I saw that.
had texted me, and I was trying to get her to make a parlay for the show, and she was busy. But I was like, all right, do you have a first touchdown bet? And she quote says, I don't recognize any of these guys, but Drake London is a cool name. That's who I'm going with.
She hit it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I misread it. I thought she said she was like, I don't know any of these guys. It's not Drake London. Like that was the one guy she said it wasn't. But she had
no. She had that. And then tonight we were just on the couch. She's thinking about Rico Dowdle first touchdown. I don't know if that's in our if we're able to
I think he was 10 to 1 on BetMGM. Yeah.
I might have to we're gonna have to put her on here as Kenz's roommate and give her a gem if Rico Dowdle hits, because none of us
I'm with you. I might actually have to bet Rico Dowdle as well, just because I can't handle your roommate just piping these gems and we can't get anything. All right, well, you're going back to the Turpin well, right?
Yeah, I mean, why not stick the same game script? We need somebody else to emerge. Okay, that's really just what this team needs, and what better time than in prime time here? I think with Cooks out, he continues to get comfortable. Mine as well at 22 to 1. I didn't feel strongly enough about anybody else that was better value. So I guess shorter value. So I was like, you know what? Tight ends are not working out for me, clearly. Okay. I think I'm 0 for 12 on tight ends. Yeah. I'm sure that's literally all I've bet on in prime time. So we're just changing it up here.
All right. I'm going the same sort of process. These numbers are pretty shrunk. I don't love a ton of the first touchdown scorer options, just because if you got to go over 10 to 1, you're dabbling in those secondary guys like a Turpin but I can hear, and I say this every week, but I can hear Al Mike, or I guess Al. I hear you can hear Tarico saying Jalen Tolbert, and that's why I'm going with Jalen Tolbert 16 to 1. I've loved him since he was at South Alabama. If we see a ton of coverage shifted to CD, maybe Tolbert's able to sneak out and pick up a first touchdown score. But yeah, we both agree that just the way that the Steelers in particular are condensed, where you have Fryermuth, Pickens, Fields, and Najee, like, and you get the Cowboys as dogs. They get one stop and go down there, and then we got a couple, secondary options along with the roommate Rico Dowdle pick as well.
Yeah. I saw a few questions before we get out of here. Someone asking about Dak passing yards. We haven't projected literally where the line is. I think he's 2-2 to this number on the season. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure. There's so many other things to bet on, and putting my faith in Dak over passing yards is just like an ugly thing to do. Not typically my favorite. I saw someone asking about Fields' rushing yards as well. I do like the rushing yards. I think the rushing attempts is a pretty solid play. That's what I went with specifically, but I mean, same type of idea there.
Yeah, and the Dak thing too is like, we know, we're hearing stuff about weather. It's possible Arthur Smith is just going to pound the ball with Fields and Najee, and then you just don't have a lot of volume, which could lead to Dak not throwing as well, and not throwing as much, unless they're trailing or unless they come out and just go pass heavy. And even then, if they do that and it's successful, get a lead and they might sit on a number. So yeah, I would agree with you on that. All right. Like I said, short show.
I'm getting some hate for my Dak rushing yards play, but I'll tell you, like, some of the plays I cashed, Tua over 4.5 rushing yards early in the season. Like, sometimes you get these guys who don't run under a double-digit line. I'm willing to get 1 or 2 scrambles and get over that number. It's ugly. It's not for everyone. Okay, that play is not for the weak.
hey, wins are wins. Money is money, and when you cash, and that's all that really matters. All right, that'll do it for us. That was fast. That was easy. 2-man weave. I know. Look at us. Little Paul Rudd action. Look at us. Let's get some diamond hands. Let's win some bets. Let's have a great game for Kins. I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later.